Battle Through the Heavens Season 5 Episode 141. Xiaoyan never would have dreamed that Qing Lin, the once obedient girl from the Amotai mercenary group, would now be a spirited young woman with a full back tattoo. Moreover, the 9 ancient celestial snakes tattooed on her back filled him with fear. Previously, after Xiaoyan successfully brought the soul karma back to the Star Cloud Pavilion, Yao Lao chose to enter seclusion immediately to restore his original soul energy. Only then could Xiaoyan begin refining a body for him, allowing him to be reborn. Next, he planned to remove the earth python's solid heart poison from Qing Lin's body. This poison was extremely notorious in the Central Plains, said to be incurable. However, in Xiaoyan's view, there was no poison in this world that couldn't be cured, only those yet to be discovered. To this end, he not only searched through all the pharmacopoeias that Yao Lao had left him, but even borrowed the 7-colored poison essence that little medical fairy had obtained to study the poison. Although he was also troubled by this potent poison, after searching, Xiaoyan finally figured out a detoxification method called a medicinal bath. He believed that with the medicinal liquid refined from hundreds of medicinal herbs, along with a bit of blood he painstakingly obtained from the pill beast, and through this scorching energy, he could slowly erode and devour the icy earth python's solid heart poison within Qing Lin. Looking at the pure energy fluctuations emanating from the pool, Xiaoyan turned to Qing Lin and said, "Qing Lin, take off your clothes and enter the pool. If you can absorb all this energy, you should be able to completely stabilize your level at Dozun." Hearing this, Qing Lin was startled at first, a blush quickly appearing on her cheeks. Seeing her like this, Xiaoyan smiled and turned around. He needed to constantly add various medicinal powders, so he wouldn't be able to leave for a while. After hearing the sound of her entering the water, Xiaoyan slowly turned back. He saw that Qing Lin now only had her head above the water. Her long hair, dampened by the steam, added a touch of captivating charm. Unexpectedly, the little girl from back then had blossomed into a charming young woman. Seeing Qing Lin gradually enter a meditative state, Xiaoyan was about to get up when his gaze suddenly fixed on her back, which had just emerged from the water. Amidst the rising mist, Qing Lin's back faintly revealed a mysterious tattoo. Looking closely, it seemed to be a giant python with 9 heads, coiled and winding. Just as Xiaoyan was startled, the closed snake eyes suddenly snapped open. Instantly, a fierce aura surged from his heart. This sudden change made his eyes instantly turn bloodshot. Xiaoyan hurriedly retreated, quickly averting his gaze from the tattoo. Only then did his eyes gradually return to normal. At this moment, Xiaoyan's heart was filled with shock. He never imagined that the once obedient Qing Lin would now have a full back tattoo, and that it would be so fierce. As the violent feeling in his heart gradually subsided, Xiaoyan finally breathed a sigh of relief. Coming back to his senses, he quickly imbued his body with the 3,000 heart flames and cautiously looked back at Qing Lin's back. However, the 9-headed snake's eyes were closed again, so the previous incident didn't happen again. Looking at the rather mysterious 9-headed snake tattoo, Xiaoyan felt confused. Because as far as he knew, on the current continent, there were no such strange magical beasts. Even the 9 netherworld underworld python didn't look like that. Judging by the fierce aura emanating from this magical beast, it was clearly no ordinary creature. After pondering to no avail, Xiaoyan could only suppress his doubts. It seemed he would have to wait until Qing Lin woke up. By asking her, he should be able to understand the details. After this thought crossed his mind, he added various medicinal herbs into the pool again. After all, completely removing the earth python's solid heart poison from Qing Lin's body was a rather complicated process. However, Xiaoyan was now a true alchemy grandmaster. Otherwise, if it were someone else, they probably wouldn't have the ability to dare detoxify Qing Lin. Although he knew that completely resolving the earth python's solid heart poison would be quite troublesome and time-consuming, he hadn't expected it to take almost 4 days. During these few days, because of the energy from the hundreds of medicinal herbs Xiaoyan added, which was gradually being absorbed and diluted by Qing Lin, the faint black energy lingering between her eyebrows gradually dissipated. Clearly, the earth python's solid heart poison in Qing Lin's body was rapidly being neutralized. This continued until the 7th day, when Xiaoyan suddenly sensed a slight change in the energy within the pool. Is it complete? However, as soon as he finished speaking, he noticed the entire cave begin to shake violently. The source of the commotion was the pool. Just as Xiaoyan was puzzled, a massive figure burst out from the pool and lunged at him with lightning speed. Seeing this, Xiaoyan gasped. It was a giant snake with 9 ferocious heads. At a glance, an indescribable, overwhelming malevolent aura spread out. The snake's 18 demonic eyes had all turned blood red. And the strangest thing was, the 3 small dots within these blood-red eyes were exactly the same as when Qing Lin used the 3 green snake pupils. As the 9-headed snake charged towards him, Xiaoyan retreated explosively and shouted Qing Lin's name. With this thunderous shout, the blood-red snake eyes gradually turned emerald green. Its massive body also gradually shrank, eventually transforming into a petite figure. Seeing Qing Lin fall, Xiaoyan quickly caught her in his arms. Looking at Qing Lin, who was slowly waking up, Xiaoyan quickly asked, "Are you okay? What just happened? What was that thing?" Hearing this, Qing Lin was startled for a moment, her small hands fidgeting together. She said happily, "That was the soul of an ancient celestial snake." Ancient celestial snake? Xiaoyan had heard of the ancient celestial snake. It was said to be one of the ancestors of ancient serpentine magical beasts, possessing the power to destroy heaven and earth. It was said to be on the same level as the ancient Heaven Emperor. However, the ancient celestial snake had gone extinct in ancient times, and ancient texts never mentioned it having 9 heads. According to Qing Lin, this was a mutated ancient celestial snake. It was a soul she had encountered in an ancient mountain range in the Central Plains. Although Qing Lin couldn't control it using her 3 green snake pupils, the ancient celestial snake stubbornly followed her, sometimes even causing trouble. But as Qing Lin's strength increased, the mutated celestial snake's resistance gradually weakened. She believed she would be able to control it easily in the future. Hearing this, Xiaoyan was stunned. Being able to control a mutated ancient celestial snake was incredible. After all, this creature was comparable to the ancient Heaven Emperor. If it grew in the future, even a Dousheng expert might have a hard time fighting it. Xiaoyan shook his head helplessly and glanced at Qing Lin. "The poison in your body should be gone, right? My strength has also reached the 1-star Dozun level. If I use the 3 green snake pupils, I should be able to control serpentine magical beasts at the 4-star Dozun level." Hearing this, Xiaoyan was speechless again. This girl's 3 green snake pupils were too terrifying. Not to mention controlling serpentine magical beasts and rapidly increasing her own strength. Just the soul of the ancient celestial snake alone would likely become a formidable bodyguard in the future. Now that the earth python's solid heart poison in Qing Lin's body had been completely removed, Xiaoyan returned to his room alone. With a flick of his finger, the 3 ribs inscribed with heaven-rank Do techniques appeared in his palm. Currently, Yao Lao was still in seclusion, restoring his original soul energy. And the soul hall might attack at any time. So he had to quickly explore the secrets contained within to increase his own strength. Xiaoyan finally cultivated his first heaven-rank Do technique, the Great Heaven Creation Palm. Unexpectedly, the star-plucking old ghost, far away in the soul hall, for some unknown reason, felt a chill down his spine. Previously, after Xiaoyan successfully removed the earth python's solid heart poison from Qing Lin's body, and since Yao Lao was currently restoring his original soul energy, Xiaoyan decided to start studying the 3 Dousheng ribs containing the heaven-rank Do technique to increase his own strength. After all, the Star Cloud Pavilion was now a sworn enemy of the Soul Hall. He had to be fully prepared for the inevitable battle. As his soul power slowly enveloped the 3 ribs, he discovered a seal on their surface. It seemed they couldn't be opened by ordinary methods. After a brief moment of contemplation, Xiaoyan summoned the 3,000 burning heart flame. Under the intense heat of the flames, the seemingly fragile bones remained motionless. Not even their color changed in the slightest. Xiaoyan wasn't surprised by this. After all, this was a seal set by a Dousheng expert. If it could be broken so easily, it would be too much of a joke. So, he let the 3,000 burning heart flame continue to burn while he gradually entered a meditative state. After burning continuously for 77.5 hours, the originally white jade ribs began to melt, gradually turning into a pool of dark golden liquid. Seeing this, Xiaoyan was startled. Could this be what it looked like after the seal was broken? After thinking for a moment, he slowly inserted a finger into the liquid. The originally still liquid suddenly began to churn violently. In an instant, it completely enveloped Xiaoyan's right hand. An unbearable pain spread from his palm. Just as Xiaoyan thought his hand would be crushed, the pain suddenly stopped. The dark golden liquid completely seeped into his palm and disappeared. Before he could recover, his soul was suddenly pulled into a strange space. In the center of this space, a figure stood with its hands clasped behind its back. With his current experience, Xiaoyan could naturally guess that this person was the true owner of the heaven-rank Do technique. This figure, devoid of any Do Qi, was likely just a memory fragment of this Dousheng expert. And just as Xiaoyan expected, the figure didn't even glance at him. Shortly after he entered the space, a voice slowly echoed, "The Great Heaven Creation Palm is a low-level heaven-rank Do technique. I spent my entire life fusing hundreds of Do techniques to create it. This palm technique emphasizes the concept of creation, shattering the heavens with a palm, crushing all things with force. A heaven-rank Do technique transcends the ordinary and surpasses saints. Since you've obtained the ribs, your palm should have been tempered by the golden spiritual strings. Remember, the Great Heaven Creation Palm can only be used with a tempered palm. Otherwise, you will suffer backlash." Hearing this, Xiaoyan suddenly understood. Only now did he realize that the intense pain he felt earlier was the so-called golden spiritual strings tempering and transforming his palm. As expected of a heaven-rank Do technique, it actually required such a process to receive the complete inheritance. If he had skipped the tempering process, he probably wouldn't dare use it even if he learned the Great Heaven Creation Palm. As Xiaoyan sighed inwardly, the figure began to slowly form hand seals. A dark golden energy outlined a rather strange meridian pathway. Seeing this, a look of delight appeared in Xiaoyan's eyes. This was clearly the method for using the Great Heaven Creation Palm. He quickly committed it to memory. At the same time, the dark golden light on the figure's palm suddenly intensified. With a swift swing of its palm, a terrifying wave of energy swept out. The surrounding space shattered like glass, instantly collapsing. As the black halo rapidly expanded in his eyes, Xiaoyan showed no sign of panic. Instead, he bowed deeply to the figure. "Remember my name, Creation Saint." After saying this, the figure completely vanished within the black halo. Thus, the last image of this Dousheng expert in this world dissipated. At the same time, Xiaoyan, meditating in his room, suddenly opened his eyes. Looking at the faint dark golden glow on his right palm, a fervent look flashed in his eyes. "I wonder if I can use the Great Heaven Creation Palm now." After all, he had witnessed its power in the ancient ruins. Many experts had died from it, and if they hadn't escaped quickly, the consequences would have been dire. Back then, Xiaoyan had coveted the Great Heaven Creation Palm. Now that he had the chance to cultivate it, how could he remain calm? With this thought, Xiaoyan began to circulate his Do Qi according to the meridian pathway he had memorized. Although he made several mistakes, after a few failures, he finally completed a full cycle. Suddenly, the dark golden light on his right palm intensified. Xiaoyan was surprised to find that his Do Qi was surging towards his palm like a tide. Sensing the rate of Do Qi consumption, even Xiaoyan couldn't help but change expression. As more and more Do Qi gathered, when the dark golden light reached its peak, a drop of black light appeared. A terrifying suction force suddenly erupted. Xiaoyan's expression changed drastically. Such terrifying energy! Only when he personally used the Great Heaven Creation Palm did Xiaoyan truly understand. He estimated that if he unleashed this palm now, everyone within a few hundred meters, including the Star Cloud Pavilion disciples and elders, would be killed. Realizing this, Xiaoyan quickly stopped the consumption of his dou qi. As he clenched his hand, the black light finally dissipated under his watchful gaze. Feeling his vast dou qi returning, Xiaoyan finally breathed a sigh of relief. He raised his right hand and stared at it. After a moment, he grinned. Everything needed to cultivate the great heaven creation palm had been completely prepared for him by Creation Saint. Therefore, his mastery of this heaven-rank dou technique was far faster than other dou techniques. This was truly a great stroke of luck. Xiaoyan smiled faintly, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. The great heaven creation palm. I wonder what star-plucking old ghost's expression will be like when he sees this dou technique. After many years, Xiaoyan finally fulfilled his promise and successfully refined a body for Yao Lao. Unexpectedly, at this critical moment, the Star Cloud Pavilion was suddenly attacked by the Soul Hall army. They even declared that this time, they would scramble even the eggs. Previously, after Xiaoyan acquired the heaven-rank dou technique, the great heaven creation palm, from the 3 dou sheng ribs, he learned from Venerable Feng that Yao Lao had recovered his original soul energy. Then, Xiaoyan eagerly began preparing to refine a body for his teacher. He had already gathered the necessary materials over the years. With a flick of his finger, a dragon eye-sized pill appeared. This was the bone-growing dragon blood pill he had refined at the pill gathering. Seeing this, a look of astonishment flashed across Venerable Feng's eyes. This is an 8th-tier pill? Yes. And it even underwent 5-colored pill lightning? Yao Lao turned his head and looked at Xiaoyan with some satisfaction. It seems your alchemy skills haven't deteriorated over the years. Haha, old man, don't worry. Xiaoyan is the champion of the pill gathering. He's not half as bad as you were in your youth. As they talked, Xiaoyan flicked his finger, and the jade bottle containing the green and red heavenly demon phoenix blood essence appeared. A wave of terrifyingly pure energy spread out. Although there were only a few drops of blood essence, they were equivalent to a large quantity. As for the bones, Xiaoyan had the bones of a peak dozong level expert. Among these 3 materials, the only one he wasn't satisfied with was the bones. In the past, he might have been pleased with the bones of a peak dozong, but with his current standards, this level of strength was no longer enough. Hearing this, Venerable Feng smiled and waved his hand. A stone coffin containing a skeleton crashed to the ground. As for bones, I have a 4-star dou shengs here. This belonged to an old enemy of mine. I killed him years ago. Since no one would collect his body, I did it for him. Hearing Venerable Feng's casual words, Xiaoyan couldn't help but be taken aback. It seemed Venerable Feng had a deep grudge against this person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have even taken care of the body. Now that he had all 3 materials, Xiaoyan began refining the body. This time, because he was using top-tier materials, the difficulty was far greater than when he refined a body for Venerable Tianhua, and it would definitely take longer. So, to be safe, Venerable Feng not only recalled all the Star Cloud Pavilion disciples, but also put the entire pavilion on high alert in case of a Soul Hall attack. As long as Yao Lao recovered his peak strength, the Star Cloud Pavilion would have a fighting chance. Therefore, he couldn't allow any mistakes at this critical juncture. After calming himself down, Xiaoyan flicked his finger, and the jade bottle containing the bone-growing dragon blood pill slowly floated towards Yao Lao. Yao Lao was naturally familiar with these steps. He took the jade bottle and with a thought, a wisp of his soul flew out and hovered beside Xiaoyan. The first step in refining the body was to use the 3000 burning heart flame to slowly and perfectly fuse the energy of Yao Lao's soul and the heavenly demon phoenix blood with the bones. Although this tempering process was time-consuming, thanks to his experience refining a body for Venerable Tianhua, Xiaoyan completed it in just 1 day. Looking at the bones emanating energy fluctuations, Xiaoyan nodded in satisfaction. He could sense that the energy of the soul and the phoenix blood essence had completely permeated the bones. Seeing this, Yao Lao, who was standing beside him, was also filled with relief. He could naturally sense that Xiaoyan's fire control skills were far superior to what they used to be. Compared to himself, Xiaoyan was probably not far behind. After Yao Lao was captured, his only worry was that without guidance, Xiao Yan's progress would stagnate. But now it seemed he had underestimated Xiao Yan's potential. Seeing Yao Lao's relieved expression, Xiao Yan smiled. Just as he was about to extinguish the flames, he suddenly thought of something and abruptly broke off the skeleton's right arm. Seeing this, Yao Lao was stunned. Could it be that Xiao Yan was going to copy Han Feng and create some kind of heaven-rank prosthetic skill? As Yao Lao wondered, Xiao Yan took out the Do Sheng's right arm and attached it to the skeleton. Xiao Yan had witnessed the hardness of Do Sheng bones firsthand. With Yao Lao's discerning eye, he naturally recognized the extraordinary nature of this item. He had never heard of attaching a Do Sheng arm while refining a body. But since it was a Do Sheng item, it should be quite useful. Perhaps it could even become an opportunity for breaking through to Do Sheng. After fusing the Do Sheng arm with the skeleton using the 3000 burning heart flame, Xiao Yan quickly told Yao Lao to take the bone-growing dragon blood pill and enter the skeleton. Hearing this, Yao Lao nodded slightly. His experienced eyes knew that this was the perfect moment. The moment Yao Lao's soul entered the skeleton, a terrifying wave of energy erupted. Flesh began to slowly appear on the skeleton. This miraculous effect was naturally due to the bone-growing dragon blood pill. Watching the flesh rapidly grow on the skeleton, Xiao Yan's expression turned serious. "Hold on, teacher." With that, the 3000 burning heart flame engulfing the skeleton blazed even fiercer. Under the intense heat, the newly formed flesh was instantly incinerated into ashes. But as soon as the ashes dispersed, a terrifying, strange energy emanated and eventually, a bloody, human-shaped outline quickly formed. This cycle of burning and regrowth continued for nearly 2.5 hours until the skeleton on the stone platform finally transformed into a human form. Now, as long as Yao Lao's soul completely fused with this body, the revered Pill Venerable, who once made the young women of the Central Plains swoon, would be truly reborn. Meanwhile, at a Soul Hall branch in the western region of the Central Plains, numerous dark figures knelt before a blue figure in the sky. "We greet the 9th Heavenly Venerate. Do you remember the mission? Annihilate the Star Cloud Pavilion, capture Xiao Yan and Yao Chen." "Understood." With that, the figure flickered and disappeared. As the blue figure vanished, an old man, the leader of the dark figures, slowly raised his head. His face was filled with murderous intent. This person was none other than the star-plucking old ghost who had repeatedly suffered setbacks at Xiao Yan's hands. "Xiao Yan, let's see who can save you this time." Meanwhile, seeing that Yao Lao, within the flames, showed no signs of trouble, Xiao Yan was slightly relieved. The body had been successfully refined. The rest was up to his teacher. With a sigh, Xiao Yan entered a meditative state. After half a day, his doqi was fully restored. However, Xiao Yan was deep in thought. After absorbing the 3000 yen flame fire, although his strength had surged, it had now returned to normal. At this rate, it would take him at least 6 months to reach 2-star Dozun. For Xiao Yan, the fastest way to increase his strength was undoubtedly to absorb heavenly flames. But he already had the 3000 yen flame fire, and there was no news of other heavenly flames. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan's eyes lit up as he took out the 3 pieces of the map depicting the purifying lotus demon fire. After examining them carefully for a long time, he shook his head helplessly. "It seems I still need to find the last piece of the map. Otherwise, no one will ever know the location of the purifying lotus demon fire." He carefully put the map away in his storage ring. Clenching his hand, Xiao Yan took out the Do Sheng bone fragments he had obtained from the ancient ruins. What he was interested in, of course, was the Do Sheng bone marrow within. It was said to have powerful strengthening effects. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan used the 3000 burning heart flame to refine it. A moment later, 3 drops of milky white, gelatinous substance appeared. After hesitating for a moment, he finally put 1 drop into his mouth. A surge of immense, pure energy suddenly washed over him. Feeling this change, Xiao Yan quickly entered a meditative state. This refinement lasted for 3 days before Xiao Yan slowly opened his eyes. The unprecedented feeling of fullness made him gasp. He estimated that he had directly broken through from 1-star dozun to 2-star dozun. After composing himself, Xiao Yan turned to look at the stone platform where Yao Lao was. However, Yao Lao still had his eyes closed, showing no signs of waking up. Seeing this, Xiao Yan shook his head helplessly. It seems the body is too powerful. Even teacher can't completely control it in a short time. After thinking for a moment, Xiao Yan decided to leave so Yao Lao could complete the fusion in peace. However, just as he made up his mind, a cold, murderous voice suddenly echoed through the sky. Star Cloud Pavilion, hand over Xiao Yan and Yao Chen. Otherwise, we will raze this place to the ground. Hearing this, Xiao Yan abruptly stood up, his eyes filled with killing intent. The Soul Hall has finally arrived.